Update-SMTN.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome to Shin Megami Tensei Network, Link 148. I'm your host this evening, Spencer Presley. I don't have a guest with me. I wanted to try something a little different. Today we are going to be doing a solo show where I am the only host. I don't have any other guests talking with me. I have some of your questions that I'll be answering, going over a little bit of news, not too much, and just kind of having a conversation with you, the listener. And at least to my knowledge, I don't think I've ever really done a solo episode like this before. So, just like the last few weeks with our kind of relaunch of the podcast, I really appreciate that feedback. So be sure to tweet at us on the podcast's Twitter at SMT Network. Let us know what you think of the show, or on the YouTube comments. Either way, I want to start with something kind of news related. There are a few things I kind of wanted to get into regarding Persona 5 Royal, mainly around this company Atlas seems to be working with regarding music copyright. I think I want to save that one for a bigger topic because it's actually been going on at least since Catherine Full Body, and I think I'd want to get someone who works maybe more as like a Let's Player or someone who posts a lot more on YouTube about it, who gets their stuff copyright claimed. And even just like game streaming going forward. So that might be a bigger topic if you guys are not aware of it. Either way, a topic that I've seen come up repeatedly whenever I've talked about Tokyo Mirage Sessions Encore is people worried that the Western censorship will still be present. So if you weren't aware, and I cannot believe this was 3 years ago, Tokyo Mirage Sessions came out on the Wii U 3 years ago, basically, June of 2016, which seems like forever ago, which is really funny to think. That was that year of not a lot of Wii U stuff coming out. I think that year was also like Mario Tennis and Paper Mario, so I think it's safe to say Tokyo Mirage Sessions was probably the Wii U game of that year, for all 10 of us who played it. But a big thing about that game's release that was very interesting, from the Japanese release, there was a lot of changes, and they were extremely inconsistent and kind of weird. So, obviously, censorship is a sometimes debated topic of, well, does it matter? Does it really affect our game? I'm going to kind of go over some of the changes and why we're talking about this again for the Switch re-release. And then going into that, I want to kind of talk about how I personally feel, and I would love to hear about what you guys think. And obviously, this is still all developing. Right now, it's October when I'm recording this. We still have 3 months till the game is out. So, in the Western version of Tokyo Mirage Sessions on the Wii U originally, there were various elements in the actual game and dialogue, not just visually, changed. Majority of the main characters were aged up a year. I think the youngest character in the game now is 17. A lot of the costumes that were a little bit more revealing, maybe showing like cleavage or skins, were altered in the sense of they just got new costumes. And anything that was maybe bikini related or a lot more kind of voyeurish, if that is even a word, was straight up just kind of removed. Main notes of that were the Hot Springs DLC, which was a bunch of costumes and a Hot Springs kind of event. Like, if you've ever seen anime, a Hot Spring or beach episode, it was just like one of those in the game. It was stupid we never got it, and it's kind of funny. I straight up forgot, A, that Tokyo Mirage Sessions even had DLC, and B, that we never got that. I remember when that came out at the time, it was a big deal that we got all the DLC for Tokyo Mirage Sessions in the West, except that. So that was really weird. Obviously, Nintendo was in a different place than when they are now. I mean, the tables have really turned. At the time, I think that era of Sony was putting out stuff and being proud to put out things like Criminal Girls or Galgun. And they were very much like, hey, we are super open, put whatever you want out now. Different strokes for different folks, obviously pun intended in that case. But with Nintendo, they were a little more reserved, as they'd been since almost the NES back in the 80s and 90s, obviously. So things have changed, obviously. Now we have Sony is a lot more reserved since they've moved their management almost primarily through their Western branch. The Japanese branch of Sony does almost nothing these days. Let's see. And Nintendo is like the home of stuff like Senran Kagura, like they have Omega Life Labyrinth and stuff. All these properties that were known for being lewd console games on originally Sony products are now exclusively over at Nintendo because Sony wants nothing to do with it. Which, to be fair, as much as it sucks, as someone who bought a lot of those games on the Vita originally, like I have Bullet Girls, like I mentioned, Criminal Girls, Galgun, there are even titles like Gun Gun Pixie, and even things like, oh man, I was just thinking about this one, Monster Monpiece. There are a lot of like lewd games that are ironically still on store shelves, but like they're not going to take them out. Basically, they want to be known as, they don't want to be known as a company who will allow games like Omega Labyrinth Z on their platform at Sony, but they also don't want to go and take the titles they've already released, like the 3 Senran Kagura games on Vita. They're not just going to wipe them from history, mainly due to the fact that they know they'd get a never-ending level of backlash from audience if they did. So going back to Nintendo, Nintendo changed a lot of stuff, and another big change besides the Hot Springs DLC was the third dungeon, if I'm not mistaken, which was primarily focused around a photographer and had lots of pictures he would kind of take of them either in like their underwear or like swimsuits. And if I get a couple of details wrong, please let me know. It's been a couple of years, but the big thing was it was kind of based off a lewd photographer of sorts in the dungeon. And that was all changed to just be models and clothes. Obviously, that takes a lot of the intention kind of away from what it originally was, and a lot of it was still inconsistent. Like, there were still scenes of women showing bikinis. There were still scenes of, like, cleavage or even underwear being shown. The censorship was just very uneven and kind of weird, and is not a case of, like, oh, basically the meme that came out of it was like, oh, they removed her pelvic bones, like, LOL, there's no more vagina bone in the game. When I think the real conversation just kind of got away from us at the time, and it needs to more focus on why was it so inconsistent and what can we do going forward, because obviously a lot of people who play these kind of games are already in a niche audience who appreciate this kind of stuff. Also, Tokyo Mirage Sessions is an extremely idol culture-focused story, which is going to have stuff like bikinis and revealing outfits and possibly sensual material and stuff like that. So we need to talk about why that's a big deal, how much does it affect the game, and how does the original team kind of feel about that, because the dev team has even they've also talked about it publicly and said a lot of these changes were basically asked by Nintendo to be made for the Western one. Obviously, the game at its core still plays the same. These are all 99.9% of the changes, all just visual related. The base core gameplay and its story is almost all entirely the same. Another thing, though, I kind of want to bring up, though, is remember, this is 3 years ago. This is back when we were still kind of getting all upset about censor culture. I think it's a lot bigger now in terms of how much stuff is getting censored, but I think a big boilerplate game was this, as well as Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball 3. A game that was developed in Japan primarily for a Japanese audience. The previous Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball games had come out in America, but this one was not releasing in the West due to Koei Tecmo straight up thinking, hey, if we release this in the West, we're going to get a ton of crap for it, and it's just not going to be worth the headache. So let's just release it in Asia. Ironically, the game was still completely done, at least in terms of text. I don't think there's any voice that's in English for it. So an English speaker could import any version of Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball 3 and play through it from beginning to end, no problem. And a lot of people had a big deal with that because, hey, why are you, holding this game back that's done for us? And we've obviously had other cases of this happening now or things changing. But it kind of all gets back to the point of it's hard to not have a taste in... it's hard not to leave a bad taste in audiences' mouths when they know something exists a certain way. They know that you're either not giving it to them the way it was originally intended or just holding it back from them at all. And it goes back to the whole Streisand effect of, I think 3 years ago when Dead or Alive Extreme 3 came out, if that came out in the West, you would have a handful of people online complaining about it, and the fans who were going to buy it anyway were going to buy it. Now, actually, to be fair, I think some companies profited from it a lot. I think PlayAsia, at least at the time, they'd leaned into it really big as being, hey, this is the game they don't want you to play in America. You can import it from us. So obviously some companies still benefited from it. And I'm sure Koei Tecmo were just as fine to sell a copy from people import-wise. But I think it's one of those things of as soon as you tell someone they can't have something, they want it immediately. Like a good example, if I tell my significant other, hey, just letting you know, when I see you later tonight, I'm going to get food, but it's just going to be for me. She's going to want it. It's unless she has just eaten something considerably better than me, why would she not want what I'm getting? And then at the same time, she's also going to be mad and ask, hey, why aren't you getting me food? If you're just already going to get food, why can't I? Why does she have to make an extra step for something that I could have just done just as easily? So it's an understandable side to see why people get upset. So let's skip ahead 3 years. Tokyo Mirage Sessions on Switch has now been announced, and we've had a weird development this week. The game's Japanese website originally featured a CG scene of the character wearing her original Japanese release outfit. And now, mysteriously, the website has been updated over the last few weeks to... the only change featured on the website, this is so weird, is the screenshot has now changed to her Western outfit. So the Western outfits, for the most part, are brand new outfits. They're not really reskins or just they're not doing a lazy 4Kids level Censorship thing. The closest that game really has to a lazy kind of cover up, I would say, is there's a wedding dress outfit that they pretty much cover up all the arms and boobs with white paint in an attempt to kind of make it look like a long sleeve wedding dress, but it kind of fails and looks a little weird. But for the most part, they made actually a lot of original clothes and even assets for the game's Western release, which is pretty commendable. I mean, they even went back when they changed the ages. I think it was reported there's 300 new voice lines just to properly reflect the characters' ages in the game, which is extremely crazy because if you think about it, it's not like there was a dub where we had to change everyone saying, oh, this girl's 16 is now 17 because all the English speakers... I'm sure if they kept the original dub of them all saying 16, even though the text said 17, I doubt many people would really notice. So it's kind of funny they went through so many efforts on some ends, but then there's also inconsistencies in the other. A good one is, early on, there is a boss with exposed cleavage, and in her intro cinematic... there is a kind of black fog covering up her breasts and cleavage, but in the game, her outfit is the same, and you can still see the boss's cleavage clearly. It's very odd. So I think, personally for me, before we talk about what the Switch stuff might mean, I think I've never really cared about the changes to Tokyo Mirage Sessions personally. The only stuff that really upset me in any real meaningful way was... I think it was dumb for them to remove everything entirely. I think the Beach DLC, the Hot Springs DLC, should have been included either through some sort of DLC or something, because even though the game is rated M, there was nothing really in the game original content to warrant an M rating. So, going back to the Switch news, do I think this change in one screenshot now confirms that all versions are getting the censored Western version? I'm in 2 points of this. My first point is, and I have not been able to find concrete details of who's working on this. So this is going under the assumption that the original team in Atlus, the Double Survivor team actually, who worked on the Wii U version, are doing the Switch ports. If we go under that assumption, maybe in that case, this is best case scenario, they are including both versions. It will say, hey, would you like to go through the game and kind of have the North American options where there is less loot, things on the walls, and basically the costumes are a little bit more toned down in terms of their revealingness, and then you can switch to the Japanese one, because there's really no reason they couldn't. And if you think about it, the team put in so many actual assets that were exclusive to the Western version and Japanese version. There is a warranted point to having both. Like, they made new costumes. Like, whether you don't like the fact that the game was censored, there are costumes that people could maybe prefer more than the original game. So it'll be interesting if they gave people that choice. Or even if it's not like two versions you change on the start screen, maybe it's just like, hey, if you want this cutscene, if you're wearing this outfit, that's how it works. Since it was a pre-rendered cutscene, it does make it a little bit more questioning, but still not impossible. So this is best case scenario. They changed it on the website because they were adding screenshots and they wanted to show off that the Western costumes will still be in the Japanese ones. Important to note that this is the change from the Japanese website. To my knowledge, I don't think there is a Western website for Tokyo Mirage Sessions outside of just a game detail page on the Nintendo website. Worst case scenario, just to be completely fair, is let's assume a third party is developing this port. Similar in the way that Tropical Freeze was brought over to the Switch from the Wii U, but that was not Retro. That was another studio. So let's say a studio, whether it be Western or Eastern, is developing the game and Nintendo gives them the ROM from the Wii U file, specifically from the North American version of the game. In that case, the developer, whether they be informed, not informed, told not to, we don't really know. Like I said, there's no reason for Nintendo to really kind of stick to their guns from 3 years ago. Fans made it very vocal and very clear how they did not like the changes, and especially how inconsistent they all were. So it would be odd if this scenario was true and basically the North American Wii U version was the master version for the Switch conversion. I hope that's not the case. I highly, highly doubt that's the case. But it's also weird because, honestly, if you think about it, like, if you're Nintendo PR in this situation, why would you not just confirm to everybody and say, hey, we're going to be doing this regarding all the changes from the original Wii U version? Because if it's bad news and everything's the Western version, whether it be the Asian version or the English version, guess what? You're pulling off the Band-Aid. Everyone's going to be mad 3 months before it releases, and then all the good word of mouth can come out at release, as opposed to with the English release, we knew about it beforehand for Wii U in terms of there was rumors, but it wasn't really confirmed until the game was out in people's hands, and there was not really enough press coverage beforehand. Like, you weren't going to be getting stories from IGN saying like, oh my god, they took out the hot spring content, at least until it released and people started complaining about it. So we kind of have to wait and see. I think it's important to keep asking Nintendo, specifically Nintendo, because remember, the only involvement Atlus has, and this is really weird, at least from my point of view, it's very funny. At my heart, I know this is an Atlus game. It was internally developed in Atlus's Japanese studios, and its translation and localization is done almost entirely by Atlus's translator. I forget the person's name who was the original translator, but it was basically someone from Atlus USA did the localization. Nintendo Treehouse looked over that localization, and then that's really all. Like, basically, outside of the one person at Atlus USA who translated it, no one at that office had anything to do with that game. So, going forward, where do we go from here besides just asking for Nintendo? Whether this be true or not. So, going forward, obviously, if none of this is censored and we just have all versions available, or if this was just some weird screenshot confusion and only the Japanese version is available, because honestly, get this. For everyone out there who's complaining that the North American version, like they don't want that one for the Switch version of Encore, think about it like this. If we only have the Japanese costumes, I bet you there will be people who are like, hey, wait, why aren't the North American costumes on the game? Because it's like those are still versions of costumes that they'd like to have available, at least to play in the game, and understandably so. So let's go forward saying that everything is worst case scenario as we thought. It's only the North American version. There's going to be none of the Japanese content originally available as we'd hoped. Does this affect us playing the game, and does this affect my recommendation or other people's recommendations? I'd really like to hear what you guys think. Me, personally, I think while the changes are really inconsistent and almost kind of mind-bogglingly confusing, because, like I said, there are scenes where they will go out of their way to change a character's age or reveal their cleavage, or, hide their cleavage, but then there are other scenes where underpants and cleavage is easily accessible and bikinis are still viewable in the game. So it really kind of seemed like a half-assed effort that fans would appreciate a lot more if we just kind of got it the way the developer originally intended. Like I said, obviously, keep the new costumes in. People liked the new costumes. Have both wedding outfits. Have the original wedding outfit with the cleavage there. Have the long sleeve version that just looks like white body paint on her boobs. Like, more options, the better. You can't go wrong if you just throw everything in the kitchen sink into this package. But, like I said, if everything is the worst case scenario, I'm still going to recommend this game for $60. Like, this game is going to really have to do a lot more than have the censorship drama from 3 years ago try and drag it down. Because at its core, the story is still the same. I really like the story. The game has a fantastic battle system. The developer, this is their first big 3D project. Like, they were working almost primarily on 3DS and really DS hardware. Because, like, as much as I love the 3DS upgrades of Devil Survivor 1 and 2, Devil Survivor 1 and 2 still look like DS games at the end of the day. They weren't pushing the 3DS's hardware at all. So, to see that team make such incredible strides on that game and how great it looked, sounded, played, and just how little attention it got, it's not going to change my recommendation. It still has a fantastic and severely underrated battle system. They're adding a new story, whether we know how much that is. There'll be new playable characters. It'll still be something I want to recommend. I'd be very curious to hear what you guys all think who've been asking about the censorship changes. Let me know in the comments if you just find out this is just straight up the North American version and it has not been touched outside of the new features. Let me know if that would really convince you to not buy the game and why. Obviously, if you've played the Wii U version and the new content doesn't really seem worth it to you, that's understandable. Like, the Wii U version is still there. It's in clearance bins everywhere. Walmart, Target, you can still get Tokyo Mirage Sessions. That will not be a rare game for a very, very, very long time, as sad as it is to say. But I'll at least say this, and kind of want to end on a bit of a positive note with it. Remember, at the end of the day, this is still an amazing Atlas game that is getting a second chance on a much bigger platform. It's going to be portable, which means a lot more people have a chance to play it. And if you're dying for something that's not just another Persona game, and you want something that, yes, there's a lot of Fire Emblem flavoring around it, still has a lot of Atlas care and love put into it from Shin Megami Tensei developers, Tokyo Mirage Sessions is something you do not want to miss, or don't sleep on at the very least. So let's move on to a bit of a weird subject. This isn't questions yet, but last week I asked people on our Facebook group and our Twitter, which, by the way, shout out to Twitter. I don't know how we got so many likes, but I felt very, very Twitter famous by getting over 500 likes on this post. I put a picture of all 3DS Shin Megami Tensei and Persona games. And I said, what was your favorite game and why? Out of all the 3DS line, at least. I took all of that feedback and basically tallied everyone's votes from Facebook, Twitter, and any other offhanded comments I got, and wanted to kind of give the results back to you. I was originally going to just read everyone's comments and kind of go into the whys. This episode would be that entirely long, and then I think, honestly, I would like to have a dedicated 3DS episode going over each game specifically, because let's be real, we don't need to make a 3DS episode. Like, we can milk it and have each game is more than big enough content-wise to have its own discussion. So, first off, all the games, in case you were not aware, in no specific order at all, we have, for the Nintendo 3DS, Persona Q, Persona Q2, Shin Megami Tensei 4, Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, Devil Survivor Overclocked, Devil Survivor 2 Record Breaker, Soul Hackers, Strange Journey Redux. So, me personally, out of all these games, it's kind of hard. I would probably pick... This is really hard. I would probably pick Devil Survivor 2, just because that game just nails everything it's trying to do. It is being the best version of that game possible, and all of the new content on the 3DS version is amazing. But it was a very close tie with Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, and also the original Shin Megami Tensei 4. I was very surprised. When I was going through this, I was seeing a lot of Devil Survivor 2 and thinking, okay, Devil Survivor 2 will probably be the black sheep winner of this. Amazingly, that's not true. This was extremely close. In order, this is how it goes. In first place, we have Shin Megami Tensei 4. Second place is the original Devil Survivor Overclocked, which is crazy to me because that was a launch game on the DS. Or launch window. I know it came out during the summer of that 2011 in the West. Number 3, Devil Survivor 2, with literally half as many votes. The votes cut in half from Devil Survivor 1 to 2. So a lot of love for Overclocked. Number 4 goes to Soul Hackers, which really, really surprised me. Oh, I'm sorry, actually. Let me go back. Number 3 is actually tied. Number 3 is Devil Survivor 2. And this really blew my mind. Also got the same amount of votes is Strange Journey Redux. The most recent S&T game that I feel got not a lot of love. Now, I'm not sure if these people were voting because of that specific remake, or this kind of goes back to what I've talked with Keith and John about, of at its core, Strange Journey Redux, while it's not the best remake or enhancement that Atlas has ever done, it's still Strange Journey. It's one of the best S&T games ever. So those are tied at number 3. Number 4 surprised me a great ton, and that was Soul Hackers, one of the earlier 3DS games for Atlas. And I mean, really, if you think about it, a Saturn port of a game we never got on the 3DS, has a super awesome aesthetic, but I feel does not ever get enough love. Was really glad to see Soul Hackers was not at the very end of this list. Number 5, and we're tied for this, is Persona... well, I guess this is true. Persona Q2 and Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse. So I want to kind of talk about why I find this surprising. For Apocalypse, I really would have thought it would have been neck and neck with 1 and 2. I'm amazed at how great the disparity there is of there are a fourth as many votes for Apocalypse as there was for 4. And I don't know if that has to do with the fact that it was released much later, because it was kind of a spin-off sequel of sorts, or really what, but I mean, there are very few complaints I've ever heard with Apocalypse for it. So it kind of might just be that in that era of it's not amazing enough for people's nostalgia for them to remember it right away over something like 4 or Devil Survivor. But either way, I thought that was really interesting how, in my opinion, low Apocalypse landed. And then Persona Q2 being tied and getting just as many votes also surprised me because, like I've said, not a lot of people talking about this. I included Persona Q and Persona Q2 more as hey, will anyone vote for these out of all these SMT games? Because I think they're fantastic games, and honestly, I put Persona Q, and I've not played a lot of Q2, very high in my top games of all time list just because of those games' aesthetics and how they play, but I feel like they don't really get a lot of love and attention, especially Persona Q2 because it came out in 2019 as a 3DS game. So, was really surprised to see that. And then in last place, or in sixth place, because of how we had two ties for third and fifth, in sixth place, we have Persona Q, and I'm not even kidding you, we had a single vote. One person was like, oh, I love Persona Q. Which is so funny because I feel like if you go back to when that game released, like that game had such a huge release of people like, man, this is amazing. We had the special edition, the GameStop 3DS that I still cannot believe we got in North America, blowing my mind. And also we have to give a shout out to Twitter for giving the votes that were not actually on the ballot, but we had a couple of write-ins that I had to include. We had one vote for Shin Megami Tensei 5, because why not? And then a shout out to Pokemon, for some reason. We have one vote for Pokemon Platinum, Pokemon White, and Pokemon Black 2. So if you're one of those people who voted for any of those last four games, shout outs to you for being the cool kid in the classroom. But yeah, I wanted to kind of just do a little poll. I was glad how much feedback we got, especially on Facebook. We got a lot of comments, and on Twitter we got a ton of likes. I was still very surprised how many likes we got with that. But let me know what you guys think of sort of community polls like that. If you guys want to do deeper dives, like kind of maybe do character polls going forward, not just keep it to titles, or maybe even sub-developers in our series, and even games that are similar to SMT, we can do polls, because these are really quick, easy to throw up on social media, and kind of fun to go over the results with. Or at least I thought the results were fun. So for our final segment, we're going to go over questions. We have a couple of questions from our Facebook group, and I have one from Twitter as well. This is from @thefansite. You guys might know them from Facebook or Twitter. The Fansite asks, what's your worst fear for SMT5 outside of it being in development hell / canceled? To which I will start by saying, A, there is no cancellation, 100%, take it to the bank. It will not be anything like SMT Cross Fire Emblem. They're just taking a really long time. I like repeating myself because of how much, as I'm getting more and more active again into podcasting and the community, amazes me. Thankfully not on our Facebook group as much, doesn't really ask where SMT is, but we do see it a lot on Twitter and stuff. I think that's just because it's a lot easier to kind of ask those questions but not really know where it is. So, also about it being in development hell, like I mentioned last week, teams working on a new system, that's going to lead to a lot of complications. Game was literally announced very early in its inception, and they're working on Unreal Engine 4, which is totally new for them, so lots and lots and lots of waits are going to happen. So the longer it takes, the better game we're going to get. That's a big one. So, to the core of the question, what is my worst fear? So this is interesting. Not what I'm concerned about, but like what would be like my worst fear? Like I pop in the cartridge for SMT5, and what is my biggest fear? I don't think I have any major fears, like one in particular. I'm going to list off a couple little ones, and if I don't have anything else too big to say, I might just kind of end it there. Let's see. Going off of last week's episode, DLC has me nervous. I would love for them to change, but I don't think that will change by then. My biggest fear. Kind of going into what John also said, I could see them trying to do like a season pass or like microtransactions for demons, or even just like things to make demon summoning easier or fusions. So that's a big fear, but let's kind of go and delve into game design. What would I fear? Here we go. This is a good one. I am worried we will still not get a English dub. Even though this is a big game for Atlas and Nintendo, we know from the videos we've seen it is 90% probably going to take place in Japan, because of course it does. And the setting on top of various other features, I worry it'll be dub only, and unless there's a story that's really, like, unless they really hone in on it being Japan, I think I'm going to miss out on the English voice actors, because one of my favorite things about Atlas games, since they're not a bigger publisher and developer, especially in the West, I enjoy discovering new voice actors through them. Like, when Persona 5 got announced, I didn't know that the main voice of Joker had already been the announcer in Smash Bros. 4. Like, that was crazy to me. I had no idea before Apocalypse came out who Sean Chiplock is, and, like, he's been on the show. We love Sean Chiplock. Shout out to Sean Chiplock, by the way. If by some miracle he ever hears this, or if you want to tweet at him, let him know. SMTN, we still love you, Sean Chiplock. So I would be very scared if, very scared, like it would really affect me. It'd be a fear in terms of it's very easy to rationalize not including it. It is a very Japanese game. It is new characters each time, but I don't know, like, unless there's some oddity that I'm missing, I don't have any games where I don't have any in my brain that I think of having really terrible voice acting for SMT. I just think SMT always has a very unique voice, and it always kind of it's made me very sad over the last two titles with Persona Q2 and Strange Journey Redux, playing through them in Japanese only, because I know those are fantastic voice actors, but even little things like Catherine, having Troy Baker actually come back and do new lines, and playing through that game meant so much more to me. God, not even a second time. Playing through it on PS4 with English voice acting again, the story meant so much more to me than when I was playing through it on Vita, because it only had the Japanese voice track, because I'm just not having a connection with those actors as well as I would with an English-speaking game. Obviously, if you are one of those people out there who do not enjoy English voice acting, dubbing over, that's your prerogative. Some people enjoy that way more. It's just one of those weird things for me. But let's see, besides voice acting, if there's any other fears, let's see, I'm nervous. And this is a weird one. I know they can't rely on old art like they did with the 3DS generation. As I've mentioned before, the 3DS games, for the most part outside of Shin Megami Tensei 4, nothing really is stopping them from running on a DS. They're using a lot of old pixel art, a lot of it is recycled assets. Obviously, each game adds new elements, whether it be story or like new demons every now and then, but certain designs are definitely copy and paste, which, I mean, for a game series like that, no one really holds it against it, but this is going to be one of those first games where we're going to have, presumably, 3D models for everything, and obviously, due to games like Persona 5 having a lot of crossover, I'm sure those could be brought into Unreal, but then, see, now I'm even thinking, the Persona 5's game engine is not made in Unreal 4, so I'm sure a lot of that could kind of get brought over, but how well will it work with their graphical style? What is the graphical style really going to be? Are we going to be similar to 4? Are we going to be going back to 3 and kind of having very dark edges and stuff for the characters and the demons? So it'll be interesting. To negate it, I want to do this. I'm very excited to see more art for the game. I'm very patient for the gameplay because I kind of know what to expect. I'll be excited to see what new additions they want to bring to it, but I would like for a bit of an art mix-up. Not in terms of let's kind of swap things on its head, but I want a nice fresh start. This is a new generation on a new engine for a new system that we've never touched before. Like, I want to really get into that and see what that's like. Also, here's a dumb fear that won't actually negate my opinions, but I just thought of this now because we were talking about modeling and demons. If I'm gonna just call this right now, and let me know if I'm wrong or right a year from now in the future, or however long we have to wait till we find out. I bet you that Koei Tecmo is going to be contracted out to do 3D models of all the demons in SMT5. And the only reason I'm saying that is because they are developing Persona 5 Scramble, which is going to have tons and tons and tons of new demons just for that. And I just realized that I was like, oh, that'd be so perfect. Because if you think about it, the Fire Emblem team did the exact same thing. Where all those high-quality models and stuff, they used that legwork at Idea... Why do I keep saying... And I keep thinking of Idea Factory when I mean Intelligent System. Idea Factory does Neptunia. Intelligent System does Fireworks. Fire Emblem. As you can tell, I'm a big fan. But yeah, take that one to the bank. This is my weird prediction as I'm recording by myself late at night. Persona 5 Scramble Demons will get into SMT5, calling it now. Mainly calling it as well because that's going to be the first Atlas game on Switch, seriously. Well, I guess actually that's not fair. See, then we're going back to the Tokyo Mirage session of... Scramble is probably going to come out, if we're being realistic, let's say May, June, at least in Japan. So we're going to have a couple of months of TMS, but wow, I keep forgetting about Scramble. Not in the sense that I'm forgetting it's a thing, but I keep forgetting it's like, you know what, that's a whole other team. And Tecmo Koei really pumps out those games like very well. And honestly, guys, get ready for this because once Persona 5R is out, and especially once Tokyo Mirage Sessions Encore is out, Scramble is going to be in the news a lot. You're going to see a lot of news for that. I think come November or December, if we don't have like a concert, you're going to get a trailer for that. And the only saving grace I'm going to give Atlas, but man, I got to get on them for this, and I really don't... It still bogs my mind that we don't have simultaneous releases. Like the last simultaneous release for Asia and... the West, I think, for Atlas games, and this is simultaneous in terms of, this is as close as we can really get, was, why am I blanking on the name? I think Ultimax and Arena. I think Ultimax and Arena, there was maybe like a month or two difference, but nothing like when Persona 5 or the DS games came out. Like when the DS games, like a good example, when Deep Strange Journey in Japan came out in October, and we had to wait 8 months or so for the Western release, it was like, cool, well, thanks. Because, I mean, at that point, obviously, the game bombed in Japan. Not a lot of people played it. Copies were probably discounted to hell like crazy by the time we got it in 2018. It's an interesting time to go back and think about, though. Especially when you think that Deep Strange Journey and SMT5 were announced at the same time in late 2017. No, not 2017. Late 2016. Because of the anniversary. I think it was the 25th anniversary of SMT, which led to a really cool box set that, of course, we did not get. But, I mean, who's surprised there? So, world's longest answer to that question. Thank you, the fan site, for all the love and also giving the question. Our next question, and our first one from Facebook, comes from Torin Rodriguez, fellow mod lover in the group. One sentence review on your favorite games. I'm going to do this for 3 because I'll be here forever. First favorite game series of all time, Metal Gear Solid. So we're going to do 1 sentence reviews. A true Hideo Kojima experience every time with a big asterisk. And that asterisk is just going to say Phantom Pain. It's really funny the longer I get away from Phantom Pain. Like, when that game came out, I was like, man, Phantom Pain is a great game. And the longer I've gone away from it, the more I've been like, man, Phantom Pain was not great. Story was not there. The voice acting was fantastic, but there's just not a lot of story. But, yeah, big asterisks, a Hideo Kojima game or experience every time. Big asterisks for Phantom Pain. And if you guys would like to roast me at the fires, because this is a thing I definitely probably haven't talked about on a podcast, let alone anywhere online. I picked up Metal Gear Survive, I think last year, for $7 new at like a Best Buy. For $7, or even like I'd say 10 or 15, Metal Gear Survive is a very interesting game that is a lot longer than I would have thought. Not as co-op oriented as you would expect, because the main open world isn't really super co-op friendly. But I'm gonna say this: I'm motivated, hopefully sometime this month, to finally beat it for Halloween, because it has zombies and stuff. It's kind of related to horror. One of my biggest controversies that I've always told people they will get upset, and then once they try it, will agree. Metal Gear Survive actually has a better designed open world than Metal Gear 5. I think Survive's world is a lot tinier and a lot more kind of conducive to, alright, you're going to take these paths, or basically because it knows what directions you're heading in a lot more because of how big and massive Afghanistan and Africa was. Those maps could basically just be a big empty square with like little highlights, but the things in between them are very forgettable, whereas from point A to B and C and D, and like your journey as you continue out into the maps of Metal Gear Survive are a lot more interesting and a lot more unique. So that'll be something that if anyone cares about Metal Gear and love to hate on Survive, please let me know on Twitter at Torchwood4SP how terrible my opinions are. Next question. Oh, that was one series. Wow. See, I was worried when I did a one-man show. I'd be like, man, I'm going to run out of things to talk about, and I can't even do one question right. All right, we're going to have 2 more other series. We'll be a lot quicker. Kingdom Hearts. My one-sentence review for Kingdom Hearts, because I love, love, love Kingdom Hearts. I will say this as a review, to review my experience. 100% wholesome and never afraid to show you what it really is. And in that sense of wholesome as its aspect of storytelling and Disney-ness all in that game, and Kingdom Hearts just has no real apologies. Like, if you're playing 3 and you've not really played a lot of them, or maybe just played Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, you're going to be missing out on a lot of stuff that, like, that's just a story that was designed for people to follow all these games and all those systems like I have all these years. I mean, it's just one of those things of, it's like an experience. I will never tell someone your first Marvel movie needs to be Endgame, because that's just like, why would you do that? So, last one I'm going to do, let's see, let's pick something kind of out of left field. Let's pick, oh man, this is really hard. There are so many series I want to pick. Why are you doing this to me, Torin? We're going to pick River City Girls, because I'm playing a lot of it recently, and I kind of think you guys might enjoy it. River City Girls. The best Scott Pilgrim sequel you'll never get, and secretly better in every way. Which is kind of a bit of a run-on sentence, but if you enjoy beat-em-ups or any of the River City games at all, could not recommend it more. Such an awesome, awesome game. Next question comes from Yusuke J-Dub. Says, why is it taking so long for the Straight Lush edition to appear in sites? I think he's talking about Persona 5's Royal Edition. I would say stock like that likes to fluctuate a lot. I don't think most of it's going to really be rare, especially based off of Atlus's history. I think the closer we get to its end of the month in October release in Japan, you're going to have a lot easier time. But I want to remind people, if you are importing Persona 5 Royal, do not sleep on the Steelbook. There's a Steelbook for Persona 5 Royal given out at GEO. Their pre-order bonus. If you buy it from them, there's a lot of links, I think, on eBay at a not terrible price. But the Steelbook looks clean. It is beautiful. Very sleek. They do a lot of nice Atlus Steelbook promotions, like the Catherine one and the Persona 3 and 5 Dancing All Night one. So definitely do not sleep on those if you are a Steelbook collector or plan on importing it, because it's not really going to cost more, and that is not in the special edition. And based on Atlus USA's history, we will probably not be getting. Next question comes from Andre Hero, fellow mod as well in the Facebook group. Do you think Sega will ever take over the localization of Atlus games in the future? And I want to say this really quick just because I'm kind of surprised to be asked this, but I know it's not super obvious. Without kind of really ranting and raving too long, important to know that Atlus USA, and this also includes Europe, as well as Sega, their Western branches are the same office. Their localizers are the same. The same guy, they're not, obviously there's different people and teams for each project. The same translation team working on Sonic and Mario at the Olympic Games is the same people who will be translating Persona 5 Royal. That's just the way things are now. Does that mean we should be worried? No. I think their translations have been fine recently. Obviously, at the release of Persona 5, there was a lot of kind of issues and worry about maybe it was like a bit rushed or just had a lot of errors, but I think after the backlash in terms of quality from their localization on Persona 5, I think Royal is going to be a good excuse for the localizers at Atlas USA to try and fix it up, which obviously now is also Sega USA. His follow-up question is, what was your reaction and thoughts on Joker and Smash? So this is a weird two-sided coin. If anyone saw my Tokyo Mirage Sessions reaction of me screaming and peeing my pants in front of my TV like a child, definitely not staged at all. I just really was that excited and not expecting it. I was even more excited. I was... And my girlfriend can attest to this. The night before Smash came out at the Game Awards, Joker was revealed as the way to end the show. And this was literally minutes before I was about to pick it up at Best Buy, my copy of Smash. I was watching it with my girlfriend Mary and my friend Jake. We're in my room watching this video, and then the Joker thing comes up, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Are they going to, reveal the next, Persona game, or, what's the announcement going to be? And then the Smash thing comes up, and I'm just losing it. My brain couldn't process it, and it came in so many waves. It came as me freaking out that it was happening, that it was going to be the first DLC character, that, oh my god, what does this mean for what's going to be in Smash, as well as, SMT stuff possibly in the future, and then my brain melting, while waiting in line at Best Buy to go pick up my copy, talking to people oh man, you excited for Joker, this is going to be so cool, and then, also flipping out, because, guys, we're going to have a Persona 5 amiibo! Will it look good? God, I hope so, but I'm going to buy it. You have to know we're going to buy it, because of course we are. And then there might be a variant of his school version, because of course there's going to be a variant. Either way, I'm already getting excited. You know where I'm coming from. The other follow-up that makes this a lot sadder is my broke butt hasn't even played him yet. I haven't even touched Joker in Smash. He's been out for months now. I haven't touched him because I love playing Smash, but I haven't had enough people in my life to come over and be like, guys, let's play Smash. And I'm like, let's go. I'll buy the DLC characters. Because guess what? I love Terry. I love Banjo. I love Hero from Dragon. The Season Pass could not be giving me more excitement. And I still haven't picked it up, and I have no reason to have not bought it yet, other than the fact that I just have no one who's kind of around me to play it, which is just the sad truth. And fun little tangent before I move on. I was about to play it with John when I was hanging out with him a couple of weeks ago. We were about to play it, and for lack of a better description, we've basically ended up finding out his Switch got bricked. At least in the sense of, I think, his dock was fine and his system was fine, but his USB-C did not work. So it's like, oh, that's okay. We ended up playing some anime fighting games as well, but every chance I've had to even touch Joker, I just haven't gotten it. But when I do get to play him, or you know what, I'll say this. If you guys want, the next week's podcast, I already know what's going to happen for it, but if I don't have anything planned for the next 2 weeks of podcast, I will pick up the season pass and give you guys my deep thoughts about Joker, because I'm sure I could rant about Joker for quite a while. Next question. Biggest video game regrets, buying a game or system or not buying one and missing out? Ooh, that's tough. I don't really have a lot of regrets. For video games, my only big one is I bought Mighty Number 9. And I also bought the collector's edition of Mighty Number 9. That's a pretty big regret for many reasons. I usually like a lot of games, and before buying most games, know that I'm going to like it. I did not like Mighty Number 9. I could not even lie to myself that I liked Mighty Number 9. I told myself maybe if the Vita version ever comes out, joke's on me. Still never did. Systems, I'm pretty picky with what I do decide to buy, so no real regrets there, but stuff to miss out on. That's tough, because I have FOMO a lot with releases since I've gotten into collecting over the last 4 years or so. I don't think I really have anything too big outside of ones that I obviously would have sold, but I really almost rarely ever sell stuff. The only one I can think of is, this really crappy game ironically, that got a April Fool's run called Poop Slinger, and now basically, it was an April Fool's website release that couldn't have made it look more like a scam, and because only like 80-something people bought copies, that's how many copies are floating around. There's thousands of copies out there. Well, not thousands. There's at least 1,000, I know that for sure, that the dev is just sitting on, or if they're smart, selling very slowly for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Like, that's a case where I regret it because I would have flipped it in a heartbeat, because collecting for the PS4 is the same thing as the Switch for me. Like, their libraries are so vast, so huge, and the quality on garbage is, like, not even there. Like, once BB and Tina's horse riding adventures are available physically, it's like, I might as well be buying Garfield Kart, because it's like, I don't really care. That's why I pretty much only collect for the Vita, because the library is so much smaller, and the titles that are, I say smaller, I have hundreds of Vita games. By comparison, there are very few bad Vita games for me to collect, thankfully. Marcos AC Rentiera, you write so much, I feel like I should not be saying this. I should not be doing so badly with it. Says, with Tokyo Mirage Sessions coming out on Switch, do you expect the game will be uncensored? We did answer that earlier, so hopefully that kind of warrants it up for you. But I wanted to read his comment saying, I honestly don't care. I just want to check out the game since I sold my Wii U before the game came out. Which, man, that's got to be like a heartbreak, because like I said earlier in the show, that's like the last great Wii U game. Stephen Yip says, what do you think might be the biggest misstep that Atlus has taken in regards to pushing the SMT and Persona series forward? What do you think is holding them back the most? This is a big question. This could be like its own show topic. I'm going to break this up really quick. I think their biggest misstep would be, this going back to last week, splitting up so much SMT and Persona because of how linked they still are even to this day. And I think things that are holding them back is that they still have a lot to learn in terms of communication with their fans, and the way that they release games in the West just pretty much feels like it's on autopilot, which sucks because they have a lot of really great community managers working there and a lot of great people working on the Western version of those games, but it just feels like sometimes these games get pushed out with so little love, whether it be from media or from them or just because the fans are not really doing things that's exciting them. I would love to get to talk to them soon and hopefully maybe make something happen, but I mean, obviously then at that point it's like, hey, hire me so I can help your game sell better. But I've been around and followed this industry for a long time, and I've followed this part of the fandom for long enough that I know that they're making a lot of mistakes that could be fixed by honestly just little things, that saying things from the outside is a lot different than trying to change them from the inside, especially of a corporation. But that is just my opinion on that one. Our final question comes from Alan Martinez. It says, what SMT/Persona song would you like to see remixed by the Silver Gunner team? So if you guys aren't aware, the Silver Gunner team, I haven't been subscribed to them for, I think, almost a couple of years now. I got into them, I discovered their channel during the maybe Sonic Mania announcement days. So they make these kind of like off mashups of like, here's an upload of this song, but there's something kind of wrong with it or stuff like that. I don't know. This is a weird one to ask. Like, what song would I want to have remixed? Because I can't really have a specific. Because I think one of the things that makes those songs by that channel so unique is it's been so long as well. It's just like they're kind of just like unexpected remixes and stuff for it. So it's really hard to say because with music, I never really know what I'm gonna expect to like. Like a good example would be the new Star Ocean collaboration song for Persona 5 Royal that's made by Lotus Juice. On the surface, I was like, okay, so it's going to be a Lotus Juice song. I'm probably going to like it because I enjoy most of his discography, but I'm not crazy about Star Ocean. I was trying to think of like if it would just feel like a Persona song or if it's going to feel too much like a Star Ocean song, and it actually hit a really good balance, and I would gladly play it for you guys here, but we don't want the copyright police to go find us. But if you look up Star Ocean, Persona 5 Royal, Lotus Juice, you'll find the new song. Fantastic song. If I am smart enough, I will remember to put it in the show notes. So I don't really have a specific song that I'd like to see remixed. It's kind of a weird one, especially because I don't really follow the channel that much anymore. So sorry I don't have a more exciting answer for that one. But you also asked, what new Mirages do you want to be added to Tokyo Mirage Sessions #FE? Well, I guess not hashtag, sharp FE. I always leave out the sharp FE because it's like, that's a little too much. That's tough because the Mirages are usually, if I'm not mistaken, all Fire Emblem related. And that's the tough thing for me because even though I play so many RPGs and I'm into so many different series and whatnot, my experience with Fire Emblem is extremely limited. I never played Awakening. The only ones I've played are maybe 30 minutes each of the Game Boy Advanced ones. I remember checking them out at a friend's house. But the only Fire Emblem game I own is Fire Emblem Warriors, and that's just because I love those type of games by Koei Tecmo. So very, very bad fan in that sense, but if not just for how weird it would be, I think it would be really cool to add the male and female protagonist from the story mode of Fire Emblem Warriors, mainly because I'm sure those two get forgotten about a lot. But I remember they were pretty cool. Not cool enough for me to remember their names, sadly, but I enjoyed them for OC characters, especially when it comes to plots like that. And also, we wanted to give a shout-out. Alan said, shout-out for Mothman and Jack Frost and King from Another Day tournament, which I'm so sorry if I do not understand the reference there. It's very late. My brain is not working on all cylinders, so any context would be appreciated, but hey, gotta give a shout-out. Either way, that is it for our questions. That is it for the episode. Should be easier since it's just me for things to go check out. Let me see. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at Torchwood4SP. Wow. This is how you know it's late. I'm not even going to change that one. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at SMT Network. You can find me on Twitter at Torchwood4SP. You can find me also on YouTube, where I'll upload this episode, same name, Torchwood4SP, or search Spencer Presley. Join our Facebook group. We got over 5,000 members there, so if you enjoy a nice little active community, you can join our Facebook group by searching Shin Megami Tensei Network and just put in a request. We'll add you in. Feel free to start topics, make some friends. Very fun stuff. Good way to meet up with people as well if you just want to be like, hey, anyone around this area. We are large enough at this point that I'm sure if you just posted a state or a country, you could find people nearby-ish. Let's see, besides that, we did YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. That's really it for now. I still don't have an update for RSS feeds and stuff. Like I said, I wanted to do a trial run of at least a month of me doing podcasts weekly. This will be that third week. I have plans to record another episode in about 2 or 3 days. And I've had a huge blast doing this again. I don't plan on stopping, but I don't have an update at the moment. My goal is by the time the next episode launches, I want to at least have an RSS feed. If not, be able to set something up so that I can basically be able to set something up so that it'll start delivering to different places, or at least I want to get it on some sort of app that'll make it easier for you guys, whether it be like Spotify or SoundCloud or even just Apple Podcasts. So let me know what you guys think of that. Big thing about why that's kind of taken so long to get a definitive answer for is because I'm trying to see right now if I can get our old RSS feed back automatically so that if you were subscribed before, all of those episodes can just pop back up in your feed, mainly to the fact that we almost have 150 episodes, and I wouldn't want to just drown the feed with like really random ones. So one week I upload the latest episode, and then 10 other episodes push that one all the way to the bottom. So trying to decide what I want to do with that. Not really sure yet, but either way, my goal is hopefully next week to at least have an answer about what I'm doing, if not have something up right away. But yes, either way, like normal, the episodes will go up, have a download link, and be on YouTube. So that way it basically makes everyone can download it on their phone, if not be able to stream it on their browser or YouTube. So thank you guys for listening once again. Hopefully this one-man show was not too much of a snooze fest, and I did not ramble as much as I worry I'm going to ramble. Please let me know what you think, because if I have a pretty okay reception doing a one-man show, I feel like I didn't do that terrible of a job. I would love to know what you guys think, and this would help me if going forward I can cover things a lot quicker, maybe make breakout segments if I can't get someone together for a week when there's big news. Like, obviously, I think come 2020 we're going to get just a deluge of news and announcements for various projects such as Royal, Scramble, Mirage Session, Encore, SMT5, and other projects we're probably going to get. So who knows? But either way, thank you guys for always listening, always being supportive. Let me know what you think of the show. Let me know if there's anything you think I can do to improve it. And yeah, just thank you for helping me continue to make this podcast happen, and more importantly, keep the community growing and keeping us talking about one of our favorite game series of all times. So without, I guess, any other ramblings, I will say goodbye and get some sleep and upload this so you can all hopefully be listening to it Monday night. Have a good one.